Emily had stayed late at her office again, the glow of her computer screen reflecting in tired eyes. The city outside was a kaleidoscope of lights as the sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows across empty streets. Most people had already left for the weekend, but she had insisted on finishing one last report, promising herself that she'd leave by 6. Now, with the clock ticking past 7, she hurried to the parking lot, eager to escape the suffocating hum of the office. Her car, however, had other plans. She twisted the key in the ignition and nothing happened. The engine coughed once and fell silent as if mocking her. A wave of panic rushed over her, and she tried again, harder, willing the vehicle to start. Still nothing. She let out a frustrated sigh and glanced around the deserted lot, hoping someone, anyone, would offer help. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a stark, almost sterile glow across the rows of parked cars. That's when she saw him. A truck, parked a few spaces away, its dark green paint gleaming faintly under the lights. The driver's side door opened, and a man stepped out, adjusting the sleeve of his jacket. He seemed ordinary enough, mid-30s, strong jaw, warm brown eyes. But there was something about the calm way he moved, the gentle ease in his stance, that drew her attention. Emily hesitated, debating whether to approach him. She did. Taking a deep breath, she walked toward the truck, her heels clicking against the asphalt. "Excuse me," she called, her voice slightly trembling. "I know this is strange, but my car won't start. Would you happen to be able to give me a ride?" The man turned toward her. His eyes softened with surprise, then quickly adopted a welcoming warmth. "Sure," he said simply. "Where do you need to go?" Emily froze for a split second. Strangers weren't typically a safe choice, but something in his expression told her he genuinely wanted to help. With a nod, she climbed into the truck, feeling a strange mix of nerves and relief. The interior smelled faintly of leather and something earthy, like pine or fresh wood. She adjusted her seatbelt, her fingers brushing against the cool buckle. The man slid into the driver's seat, and she realized she didn't even know his name. "I'm Daniel," he said with a small smile as he started the engine. "Where are you headed?" Emily told him her address, and the truck rolled forward smoothly, leaving the office lot behind. The city's noise softened, replaced by the quiet hum of tires on asphalt. For a while they drove in silence, and Emily found herself studying him, his face, the way he held the wheel, the occasional glance in her direction that felt curious but not intrusive. "Rough day?" Daniel finally asked, breaking the quiet. His tone was gentle, carrying no judgment, only genuine curiosity. Emily chuckled nervously. "You could say that. My car, this traffic, just one of those days where nothing seems to go right." He nodded, glancing at her with a look of understanding. "I get it. Life has a way of throwing little surprises at us. Some frustrating, some unexpected. The word lingered in Emily's mind. She felt an unusual stirring of curiosity, an odd sense of anticipation that made her heart beat a little faster. There was a calmness about him, a reassurance that made her feel safe, even though she'd entered a stranger's vehicle just moments ago. As they turned onto quieter streets, Emily noticed that Daniel seemed to drive with a kind of meditative ease. He didn't rush, didn't check his phone, didn't glance impatiently at the clock. Instead, there was an attentive patience in the way he navigated, and she found herself relaxing in spite of herself. After a few minutes, Daniel slowed near a small park, a quiet strip of green tucked between buildings. "Mind if I pull over for a moment?" he asked. "No, not at all," Emily replied, curious. The truck stopped. Silence stretched between them, broken only by distant birdsong and the occasional hum of a passing car. Emily watched Daniel's profile as he looked out the windshield, the fading sunlight casting soft shadows across his face. He seemed thoughtful, almost contemplative, yet his presence was quietly comforting rather than imposing. "Sometimes," he said finally, his voice low, "the moments we don't plan are the ones we remember the most." Emily nodded slowly, feeling a shiver of something she couldn't quite name. She wasn't sure why, but his words resonated deeply, stirring a sense of connection that she hadn't expected from a simple ride. Her heart raced slightly, not with fear, but with curiosity, intrigue. and an unspoken anticipation. Daniel glanced at her from the corner of his eye, a small, reassuring smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. It wasn't flirtatious, but it carried a warmth that made Emily feel unusually at ease. "You okay?" he asked gently. She smiled back, surprised at the comfort she felt in sharing even this small space with a stranger. "Yes, better than okay," she admitted softly. "Actually, I think I'm curious." "That's probably the strangest thing to say in a truck with a stranger." Daniel laughed lightly, a sound that blended with the quiet evening. "Curiosity is never strange. Sometimes it's exactly what life needs to push us in a new direction." They sat in quiet reflection for a moment, the glow of streetlights beginning to pierce the twilight. Emily felt her mind wander, thinking about the small, ordinary decisions that had led her here. A broken car, a busy office, a last-minute choice to ask for help. All had collided into this exact moment, a tiny intersection of chance and possibility. The truck pulled back onto the road, moving slowly. Emily watched the passing scenery, feeling a strange calm wash over her. Daniel drove with quiet confidence, occasionally glancing at her with a curiosity that mirrored her own. There was an unspoken sense that this ride was more than a practical solution to a broken car. It was the start of something unexpected, something delicate and uncharted. She thought about her day, the stress that had weighed her down, and realized that in just a few minutes, a simple act, getting into a stranger's truck, had shifted her perspective. There was something about Daniel's presence that made her feel seen, even in this brief encounter. As they drove, Emily's mind returned to his earlier words. "The moments we don't plan are the ones we remember." She felt the truth of it settle deep inside her. This wasn't just a car ride. This was the first thread of a story she hadn't anticipated, a connection she couldn't yet define, and a moment that would linger in her memory far longer than the broken car that had brought her here. The city lights blurred past, the fading sun casting golden streaks across the dashboard. Emily looked at Daniel, and for the first time that day, she felt a sense of calm, of anticipation, and of a tiny spark of wonder. This ride, this stranger, and this quiet evening were quietly transforming her ordinary day into something she would never forget. And then, Daniel spoke again, softly. "We're almost there." Her stomach tightened. The ride was nearing its end, yet the feeling this moment had stirred was only beginning. Emily realized that whatever awaited at her apartment, whatever happened next, this encounter would leave a mark on her, subtle, delicate, but unforgettable. Emily watched the city blur past the truck window, the glow of streetlights reflecting in her eyes. She could feel a strange mix of excitement and nervousness curling in her stomach. Daniel drove with calm confidence, hands steady on the wheel. His occasional glances at her filled with a quiet attentiveness that made her heart beat faster. There was something about the way he listened, not just to her words, but to her pauses. Her sighs, the subtle tremor in her voice, that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in months. The streets were quieter now, the chaos of rush hour long gone, leaving only the soft hum of tires on asphalt and the occasional distant car horn. Emily took a deep breath, realizing how unusual it was for her to feel this calm in the company of a stranger. Yet, the more she looked at Daniel, the more she felt that this was not entirely a chance encounter. Something about his presence was familiar, like she had known him somewhere, in another life, or perhaps in the fleeting dreams she often had on restless nights. "So," Daniel said after a while, breaking the silence in the gentlest tone, "what made you stay late at work tonight? The project must have been important." Emily sighed, her fingers fiddling with the strap of her bag. "It was. Deadlines, clients, you know how it goes. But really, I think I just wanted to finish it so I could have some peace over the weekend. Funny how peace always seems to find a way of slipping away, though." Daniel nodded thoughtfully, not interrupting, letting her words hang in the space between them. There was a softness in the way he listened, a patience that made her feel comfortable enough to reveal more than she usually would to anyone. "Life has a way of teaching us patience in unexpected ways," he said. "Sometimes the smallest interruptions, the unplanned events, they end up changing things for the better, if we let them." Emily's lips curved into a small, reluctant smile. His words were simple, but there was wisdom in them that resonated. "You make it sound so easy," she murmured, glancing out the window at the passing lights. "I wish it were that easy." "It's never easy," Daniel admitted, his eyes flicking briefly to hers. "But the unexpected, it has its charm. Sometimes it brings people together in ways we don't anticipate." Emily felt her pulse quicken. There was a subtle warmth in his voice that felt intimate, though not inappropriate. She realized she was leaning slightly toward him, drawn not by familiarity, but by the calm assurance he exuded. She felt the pull of curiosity, wondering what had led him to be so patient, so grounded, and why he seemed to understand her so effortlessly. They passed a small coffee shop, its neon sign buzzing softly in the twilight. Daniel slowed slightly, then accelerated again, not stopping, but Emily noticed the thoughtful expression on his face. It was as if he were considering something quietly, choosing his words carefully before speaking. "You know," he said after a few moments, "I don't usually offer rides to strangers, but there was something about today, about seeing you there. It felt right. Sometimes we're guided by instincts we don't fully understand." Emily felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Instincts," she echoed softly. "Funny how a small decision, just asking for help, can lead to something... This." Daniel's lips lifted in a faint, warm smile. "Exactly. This. The unexpected moment that becomes meaningful." They drove on in companionable silence for a few minutes, each lost in thought. Emily found herself remembering the small details of his gestures, the way his hand rested lightly on the wheel, the tilt of his head as he listened, the quiet steadiness in his voice. Each detail seemed etched into her mind, leaving a strange imprint that she couldn't quite explain. It was both comforting and thrilling, the kind of sensation that made ordinary moments feel profound. "So," Emily said finally, breaking the quiet, "do you often meet strangers and feel that something is meaningful in such a short time?" Daniel chuckled softly. "No, rarely. But I guess today was one of those rare days. Life sometimes places us in situations where connections happen quickly, unexpectedly. The trick is to notice them before they pass." Emily nodded, thinking about how true that was. She had spent so much of her life rushing through routines, barely noticing moments that mattered. And now, sitting here in a stranger's truck, she realized that she was finally paying attention, truly noticing, truly feeling. Daniel glanced at her again, his expression soft and curious. "You seem thoughtful," he said gently. Emily laughed lightly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I think too much, always analyzing. But with you, I don't know. It feels different. Relaxing, even." "That's good," he replied simply. "We all need moments like that. Rare spaces where we can just be." As they continued down quieter streets, Emily noticed the subtle changes in him. The way his eyes softened when he looked at her. The slight curve of his smile when he caught her watching him. There was a gentle rhythm to his movements, a quiet confidence that made her feel safe and curious at the same time. She realized she hadn't felt this kind of ease with anyone in a long time, not with friends, colleagues, or even family. A small park appeared on the side of the road, illuminated by the golden light of street lamps. Daniel slowed the truck and glanced at her. "Mind if we stop for a moment? Just a break before we continue." Emily shook her head. "Not at all." He parked the truck near the park, and for a few minutes they sat in silence, letting the night settle around them. The air smelled faintly of grass and the remnants of the day's rain, and Emily felt a strange peace settle over her. There was no rush, no agenda, just the quiet presence of another person who seemed to understand the delicate balance between silence and conversation. "You know," Daniel said softly, "it's strange how life nudges us toward certain people. Some encounters are fleeting, some lasting, but each has a purpose. I think meeting you today was meant to remind me of that." Emily felt a lump in her throat. The words were gentle, thoughtful, and entirely unexpected. She hadn't anticipated feeling this connection with someone she'd just met, yet it was undeniable. Her heart fluttered in a way that was both exciting and terrifying. I know what you mean," she replied, her voice soft. "It's rare to meet someone and feel like They just get it, even without knowing you. Daniel smiled, a quiet warmth in his expression. Exactly, and sometimes it takes a small twist of fate, a broken car, a chance meeting, to remind us how meaningful the simplest moments can be. Emily looked out the window, feeling a strange mixture of anticipation and contentment. For the first time in days, perhaps weeks, she felt a sense of possibility. A sense that the ordinary could turn extraordinary in the most unexpected ways. After a few minutes, Daniel started the truck again, pulling back onto the road with steady hands. "We're getting close to your place," he said. There was a soft reluctance in his tone, as if he, too, wished the ride would continue indefinitely. Emily felt a pang of disappointment. She didn't want this connection to end so soon, yet she also realized that this was only the beginning, a start of something subtle, meaningful, and entirely unexpected. As they drove the final stretch, she reflected on the conversation, the quiet understanding, the shared stories, and the gentle presence that had turned a stressful evening into something unforgettable. And she knew without a doubt that this brief encounter, this unexpected ride, would linger in her heart far longer than she could have imagined. The city lights faded into her neighborhood, and Daniel slowed the truck. Emily's destination was near, yet the sense of anticipation remained. There was more to this story, she felt, more to the connection that had begun quietly, gently, and with a hint of something extraordinary. Emily felt her heartbeat quicken as Daniel navigated the familiar streets of her neighborhood. The ride, which had started as a practical solution to her broken car, had transformed into a quiet, meaningful journey that left her mind racing. She couldn't stop thinking about the conversation, about his calm, attentive presence, and about the strange sense of connection that seemed to defy logic. As they approached her apartment building, Daniel slowed the truck and Emily's stomach tightened. There was a part of her that didn't want this ride to end, that wanted the quiet intimacy of the moment to linger a little longer. Yet another part of her reminded herself that she had entered the truck as a stranger, and boundaries still existed. She balanced the thrill of the unexpected with a cautious awareness, trying to make sense of her emotions. "Here we are," Daniel said softly, bringing the truck to a gentle stop near the curb. He looked over at her with that same warm attentiveness that had marked the entire ride. "Safe and sound," Emily nodded, smiling. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "Not just for the ride, but for everything, for listening, for, well, just being you." Daniel's eyes softened. "You're welcome, Emily. Sometimes it's the small moments, the brief encounters that leave the biggest impact. I hope tonight was one of those for you." She felt a rush of gratitude and something else, an inexplicable curiosity about him, about the calm way he seemed to see her. "It already has been," she admitted. Her voice was quiet, but earnest, carrying the weight of the evening's shared experiences. They sat in silence for a moment, both reluctant to break the spell. Emily realized that the conversation had flowed effortlessly, the quiet pauses filled with understanding rather than awkwardness. The connection felt genuine, unforced, and entirely unexpected. She wondered if Daniel felt the same pull, the same quiet intrigue that had been building throughout the ride. Finally, she unbuckled her seatbelt, her hands slightly trembling. "Well, I suppose I should get inside," she said, though part of her wished she could continue talking, continue this rare, fleeting connection a little longer. Daniel nodded, offering a gentle smile. "Of course. Take care, Emily, and remember, sometimes life surprises us when we least expect it. Moments like these, they're rare, but they remind us to notice the beauty around us." Emily's heart skipped a beat at his words. "I'll remember," she whispered. She opened the door and stepped out, the cool night air brushing against her skin. She turned back to him one last time. "Thank you, Daniel, truly." He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of their shared experience. Then he started the truck again and drove off, disappearing into the quiet streets, leaving Emily standing there with a mix of wonder and anticipation lingering in her chest. Once inside her apartment, Emily leaned against the door, closing her eyes. The evening's events replayed in her mind. The chance encounter, the calm patience, the unexpected conversations, and the subtle, unspoken understanding that had formed between them. She realized that something had shifted within her, something gentle yet profound, a spark of curiosity and longing that she hadn't felt in a long time. She wandered over to the window, looking out at the city lights. The streets seemed different now, infused with possibility, each glowing lamp a reminder of the unpredictability of life. Emily felt a quiet determination to pay attention to the small moments, the encounters that could alter the course of an ordinary day. Daniel had reminded her, without even trying, that connections could form in the most unexpected places. The next morning, Emily woke with a lingering sense of anticipation. She went through her routine, but her mind kept returning to the ride, to Daniel, and to the warmth she had felt in his presence. It was a strange mix of longing and curiosity, a gentle ache that wasn't painful but invigorating. She wondered if she would ever see him again, if this encounter had been a fleeting moment or the beginning of something more. Later that day, she returned to her office, resuming her tasks with a renewed sense of perspective. Work that had seemed monotonous yesterday now felt manageable. Even the small frustrations, the endless emails, the ticking clock, the tight deadlines, were softened by the memory of that unexpected ride. She found herself smiling quietly at her desk, remembering his words about noticing life's small moments, about the rare connections that change us in subtle ways. A week passed, and Emily often found herself glancing at the street outside her office window, half expecting to see Daniel's truck parked nearby, half hoping for another chance encounter. She knew it was unlikely, yet she couldn't help the anticipation that fluttered in her chest. Every unexpected sound, every passing vehicle, made her heart leap slightly, a quiet reminder of the possibilities that life held. Then, one evening, as she stayed late once more to finish a particularly demanding project, she noticed a familiar shadow in the parking lot. Her heart raced. Could it be him? She stepped outside cautiously, her breath catching in her throat as the figure emerged from the truck, smiling warmly. "Daniel," she breathed, a mix of surprise and relief in her voice. He waved, a gentle, unassuming gesture. "Emily," he replied softly. "I thought I'd check on you. Make sure the car troubles are truly behind you." She laughed lightly, feeling a sense of joy bubble up. "You didn't have to do that, but I'm glad you did." Daniel shrugged modestly, still smiling. "Sometimes small gestures mean more than we realize. Besides, I wanted to see how you were." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest, a gentle acknowledgement of the connection that had been quietly building. They walked toward the office together, sharing casual conversation that carried a subtle intimacy. It was easy, comfortable, and unforced, the kind of connection that didn't need grand gestures to feel meaningful. As they reached the office entrance, Emily realized that this was a turning point. The initial ride had been unexpected, a chance encounter shaped by circumstance. But this, Daniel appearing here, checking on her, was intentional. It spoke of consideration, thoughtfulness, and the beginnings of a relationship built on mutual respect and curiosity. "Thank you," she said softly, looking up at him, "for everything. For showing up." Daniel's eyes met hers, warm and sincere. "Emily, I think sometimes the unexpected moments are the ones that shape us the most. I hope this is one of those moments for both of us." Her heart responded before her mind could catch up. She nodded, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "It already is." They paused for a moment, the city lights casting a gentle glow around them. Emily felt a quiet anticipation for what was to come, knowing that this connection, born from a broken car and a simple request for help, was evolving into something meaningful. She didn't know the full story yet, didn't know where it would lead, but she felt certain that whatever happened next would be shaped by this rare, gentle bond they had begun to build. And as Daniel walked with her to her car, side by side under the glow of the streetlights, Emily realized that life's unexpected moments were often the ones that left the deepest impressions. That first ride had been just the beginning, a spark that had ignited a subtle, growing warmth between them, promising something extraordinary, delicate, and entirely unexpected. The following days were filled with a quiet anticipation that Emily hadn't felt in a long time. Every small notification on her phone, every passing shadow in the street, made her heart leap just a little. She couldn't stop thinking about Daniel, about the ride, the conversations, and the subtle warmth that seemed to linger in her chest whenever she remembered him. The city felt different now, each street and light carrying the memory of their shared moments, of the unexpected connection that had started as simply as a ride home. One evening, after finishing a long day at work, Emily found herself wandering through a quiet park near her apartment. She had always enjoyed walks after work, but tonight it felt different. The cool air carried a hint of autumn, and the glow of the street lamps painted the paths in soft gold. Her mind kept drifting back to Daniel, his calm presence, his thoughtful words, and the way he had managed to make a stranger feel safe, understood, and seen. She realized that, in just a few brief encounters, he had made a mark on her life that was impossible to ignore. As she turned a corner, Emily caught sight of a familiar figure in the distance. Daniel was leaning casually against a tree, seemingly lost in thought, yet instantly aware of her presence when she appeared. Her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected to see him here, but the sight of him felt both natural and extraordinary. "Emily," he greeted softly, his voice carrying that same calm warmth that had captivated her from the start. "Daniel," she replied, her voice a mixture of surprise and relief. "I didn't expect to see you here." He smiled, a genuine, easy smile that made her chest feel light. "I could say the same about you. But maybe some things are meant to happen, unexpectedly, yet perfectly." Emily felt her cheeks warm, the subtle excitement of the moment filling her senses. She took a hesitant step closer, the distance between them shrinking in a way that felt both natural and inevitable. "I guess life has a way of bringing people together at the right moment," she said softly. Daniel nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "It does, and sometimes those moments are the ones that leave the biggest impressions." They walked together through the park, the soft crunch of fallen leaves underfoot, providing a gentle rhythm to their conversation. Emily found herself opening up more than she had intended, sharing small details about her life, her fears, and her hopes. Daniel listened with patience and genuine interest, his occasional comments gentle, thoughtful, and entirely reassuring. She realized that in his presence she didn't have to guard her thoughts or feelings. She could simply be herself, and that realization was liberating. At one point, they stopped near a small fountain, the water glimmering under the park lights. Emily watched the ripples, feeling a quiet sense of peace. Daniel stood beside her, close but not imposing, and for a moment they simply shared the silence. It was comfortable, intimate in a way that didn't need words, a rare kind of connection that she had never experienced before. "I never expected this," Emily admitted after a while, her voice barely above a whisper. "I mean, meeting you, talking to you, spending these moments, it feels like something out of a dream." Daniel's gaze softened. "Neither did I. But sometimes the most unexpected things turn out to be the most meaningful. Life has a way of surprising us, reminding us that connections can happen when we least expect them." Emily smiled, feeling a flutter in her chest. "You make it sound so simple," she said, though her tone was playful. "But it's not, is it?" "No," Daniel replied, chuckling lightly. "It's never simple, but it's worth it. The unexpected is always worth noticing, worth feeling." They continued walking, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments that felt deeply personal, despite the brevity of their acquaintance. Emily realized that these moments, the ones that seemed ordinary to an outsider, were extraordinary to her. They were filled with subtle emotions, a gentle intimacy, and the thrilling sense of discovering something new and rare. Eventually, they reached the edge of the park, where the streets began to glow with the familiar lights of her neighborhood. Emily's apartment building loomed ahead, and a small pang of reluctance stirred within her. She didn't want this evening to end, didn't want the sense of connection to slip away. "Thank you," she said quietly, looking up at him. "For tonight, for everything." "I didn't know I needed this, but I did." Daniel smiled, a warm, reassuring smile. "Emily, the pleasure has been mine. Meeting you, sharing these moments, it's been special." There was a pause, a shared understanding that words couldn't fully capture. Emily felt the pull of the moment, a quiet desire to hold on to this feeling, to the connection that had grown gently but unmistakably between them. "I hope we can do this again," she said softly, her voice tinged with hope. Daniel's eyes lit up slightly. "I was hoping you'd say that. I would like nothing more than to see you again, to continue this unexpected journey." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of relief, excitement, and anticipation. She realized that what had started as a simple, unplanned ride had blossomed into something far more meaningful. It wasn't just the connection. It was the understanding, the attention, the respect, and the gentle unfolding of emotions that had drawn them together. As they said their goodbyes, and Emily stepped inside her apartment, she felt a sense of completion, yet also a quiet excitement for what was to come. The story of the ride, the conversations, and the shared moments had reached a natural pause, but it was clear that this was only the beginning of something beautiful. Emily leaned against her window, looking out at the city lights. She felt a sense of gratitude for the unexpected, for the small twists of fate that had brought Daniel into her life. Thanks for listening.